School may finish, but learning doesn't. Life will continue to test you, no matter what age you are. And for that, you need a strong mindset to make the struggle with life work with you and not against you. This podcast is dedicated to using old head wisdom to explore what it means to be mentally strong, what it means to be successful, and how to get between tough times. We are Ricky and Keith Tillman. Thank you for watching today. A lot of people would come up with the idea, say, okay, I think I want to quit my day job, but how does one actually take action? Once you made that decision, how are you able to move forward in it and follow through with that? Because it's sort of a scary decision of the unknown. So the fear factor comes in.
Mentally, do not frame what is happening to you as a tragedy, but rather as the beginning of a journey. So, I think that's an important note, because I think the brain is very powerful at creating narratives and stories about ourselves and the life we're in. And I'm pretty sure cognitive behavioral therapy, which is very effective and famous psychological behavioral therapy, does just that. It makes people turn the stories that they've written about events on their head. So instead of this person hurt you, it's I survived this, or whatever it might be. And so the framing of what's happening, I don't think it's even possible to, be in an unstable situation if you're framing your instability as something that has happened to you, or you frame yourself as a victim of it. Because if you're a victim, you're constantly groveling to get back to where you were. Whereas if you're going on a journey, you're saying, I'm going to take some blows and I'm ready to take some more. Mm-hmm. So,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that journey. Because you made the decision. Okay, now the decision made. You quit the job. What are the pressures that you felt from others, and also that you put upon yourself, including the fear factor that comes in? What are some of the things that you had to overcome?
I think the young people would suffer from this more than any other generation, because young people are flooded with, TikTok and Instagram and so on, of hyper successful, rich young people, like 24-year-old billionaires and so on. And there is this added pressure to be financially more stable at a younger age, despite it being harder than in the last 50 years to be financially stable. Or if you look at like inflation and so on.
Yeah.
So the comparison of others is one. I would say prestige. So other people, might flex their prestige and so on, or their position. And it feels like a big step backwards to say, leave your job. But it's a quote I like. It's better to start at the bottom of a ladder that you do want to climb than halfway up a ladder that you don't want to climb. And so even though something might feel as if it's a step back, it's a step forward in the direction in which you want to be in. The laughter of others. Some people are not so graceful with how they assess your life. Some people, I don't judge, do what you want to do, but some people are not so subtle. And being able to hear that and to remain silent and walk forward anyway is a task. And even more so, some people will disagree in this. I don't think other people's negative comments should necessarily amp you up. I don't think they should affect you at all, because a lot of people will fuel their success through revenge, through getting back at the people who told them they couldn't. I don't think it's a good motivator personally. Another big thing is missed opportunities. So like maybe the job you're at, it does provide some financial security, and you don't have the money to, say, go out on dinners and so on, and you still have that social pressure. Um, it can affect your dating life as well. I mean, I was self-employed throughout 2021, 2022, 2023. Didn't have a lot of money, and it's not good. It's not a good look on the dates front, but you have to not care about that, because just just in the same sense that you're not going to stick around for it in a job that you don't want to be in. You don't want to stick around people who are also going to hold you back from what you want. So yeah, there's missed opportunities. There's if all your friends are going to a festival and it costs like $300-400 to go and you can't afford it. Yeah, there's a lot there that can mentally get to people. The biggest one is doubt. So doubt can be a curse in which once you've made a decision, the constant questioning whether you made the right decision can follow you even for years. And there has to be some element of I've made the decision, that's it. Like some finality about that. That's what it is. Doubt is a thing that's in our brains to protect us from harmful situations, but it can create a more harmful environment than the suffering which you're trying to escape. So self-doubt as well can cause
So yeah,
a lot.
that brings a point. How did you persevere? Because when the kitchen get hot, a lot of people want to leave it. So how did you persevere? Say, hold on, something is telling me to go back to
Mm-hmm.
what I'm familiar with, which is a day job.
So by constantly reminding yourself why you're doing what you're doing to begin with.
Yeah, because you had a combination of not only dealing with the fear, you also had issues of anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
you had that big whammy of the double whammy of
Yeah.
mental will. So talk us through that.
With anxiety, I think anxiety. Um, I had an anxiety slight disorder where um, I would get I would get very anxious about something happening based off of very little evidence for that thing being true. So I would read into things too much, like A plus B, therefore Z. Like that's what I would do. I would skip so many steps in between and presume the conclusion. And the thing about anxiety is that it will allow you to do that very convincingly to yourself that it's very logical. And once it becomes known to me that I have this issue of reading too much into things, or predicting, or getting into the habit of predicting, I had to do this process of, okay, so this bad thing I'm scared of happening, I have to walk in that direction as if it is going to happen anyway, because I can't follow what my anxiety wants me to do. My anxiety wants me to run, but that is not what I should do. Now, if my anxiety was triggered by something real and valid, then I should run. Like if there's a lion in the room, then you should run. Like there's a utility to anxiety. But if the anxiety is a false alarm, then you have to ignore it and keep charging on. And that part taught me something incredible about life generally. That mental process that I had to do is something like whatever I'd imagine the bad thing might be. Let's say I'm anxious of this happening. Whatever this anxious thing is, it's gonna happen. The opposite of what you might think you should do. Because when I did that and I said it's gonna happen, but I need to move forward anyway, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that's a metaphor for life generally. Is that you're not gonna get through it unscathed, and
Mm-hmm.
that bad things will happen, but people often will use the presence of bad things that might happen in the future to discourage them for doing things in the present. And so the process is bad things are going to happen. I'm going to lose a lot of money at some point in the future because everyone will go through that. Like, or there might be a significant, like heartbreak of some sort that I might face. There's going to be something.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to move forward in spite of that. The presence of that in the future cannot stop any actions I make today. And that was a really interesting thing, that my issue with anxiety actually taught me something about life generally. So yeah.
Yeah. No pain, no gain. So you are plugging along with your business.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning stages, even now, how important someone is going to go out and want to be an entrepreneur and stand on their own, but it's kind of hard. I mean, it's really difficult to do things all on your own. How important is it to have support, good support around you? Or did you feel that you have support around you?
Yeah, I would say having bad support around you makes it for almost near an impossible task. Um, Having no support around you isn't good. Having good support around you is great. But like I honestly think it would be very hard for someone to make a decision and then everyone around them barking at them throughout the future that that was a bad decision. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? It's not a good environment mentally to be into, and I guess that's why a lot of people don't do uh, similar kind of things, is because our society has a culture of protect from harm. Don't do anything risky.
Hmm.
At the same time, it expects leaps and bounds of us. So it's very contradictory. But I think having a bad environment is will make it impossible. So I think to anyone who's listening, if you are in an environment of a negative feedback loop, to remove yourself from it for the betterment of yourself. Um, it's better to have no support than bad support.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Speaking with that point, coming from an old head perspective, it's also important for the people who are supporting you to be aware that, you know, as parents and as people who are supposed, you know, having your back, sometimes we can project our own fears on what we think your life should be like or life should be like and what to be aware of. And so if you're supporting someone who's wanting to be an entrepreneur and do things their own, you have to be aware of how you can affect them by projecting your philosophies on what you think is going to go down. Like, for example, if I was to tell you don't do this because I'm afraid that something bad's going to happen or you're going to go broke. I don't
Yeah,
know that to be true. So
that's true. But
yeah.
I would flip that on its head and say that if you are allowing yourself to be so heavily influenced by others, then this game at all is not for you. Because you have to, I think maybe I even should have started with this point, but you have to be very grounded in your worldview, what you think is good, what you think is bad, what you think your life is worth, and where do you think it's worth going. Because and if you have that all down, centered, there's not a voice from heaven that could deter you from continuing to do that. Or maybe a voice from heaven would. But the point is that it's very, you don't want to be in a position where you're so easily influenced by the whims of others. If you are in that position and like a friend or even a parent so easily can detract you, then I don't think that whatever that was close to that person's heart. So I
That's a
think
tough
that
one.
is,
That's a tough one because
yeah,
when you're young, you're taught to respect and honor your parents and people around you. So,
is
and that's a skills that you learn through pain over time. What you're talking about there, you're not necessarily born with that, but you do need to have a good basis of knowing what game you're in. You're in a game of being an entrepreneur, meaning you're going to stand on your own feet. So you have
yeah,
to be able to make your own decision, seek advice, but be careful on how
Yeah,
that advice
absolutely.
affects you.
Yeah. My point is that you have to respect your own opinion and worldview,
Mm.
because a lot of young people, especially, is that they will go forward. Like, are you going to go forward, say, as an entrepreneur or whatever it is, or start your own, trade or something like that? Are you going to do that as a kid, or are you going to do it as an adult? And a part of being an adult is to walk on your own 2 feet and not on others, on the backs of others. Which means the scary, you have to, in a way, reject the opinions of people, even the opinions of people who you respect. Because an adult, I think, by definition, is someone who walks on their own 2 feet. Like, if you show me a 50-year-old who still does exactly what his mum tells him to do, then you don't have an adult to me. So I honestly think even entrepreneurship can be a really good reality hit for young people about coming to terms with their adulthood, because they're decisions that are going to benefit you. Like, you're making the decisions and they're going to benefit you. And you're going to learn very quickly how letting other people's opinions filter into that can lead to some bad outcomes.
Okay. Two questions.
So, yeah.
What's been your biggest hurdle and your biggest growth?
I think my biggest hurdle is probably fear generally, but fear manifests in so many different ways. It can manifest as your intuition, which is something I learned recently, that, like, when I follow my intuition, sometimes my intuition has been invaded by my fears. And when I'm following, I'm doing what I should do, I'm doing what I'm scared, the opposite of what I'm scared to happen, of happening. It can manifest as just a variety of ways. So I would say generally it's fear. And the antidote to that is to believe that it's going to be okay. And that's something I haven't even fully learned, but I feel like I know it's the answer. It's one of those things that, when you know the answer, but you still struggle to do it yourself. It's to understand that you're going to be okay. And people characterize that as naive, where I would characterize naivety, or when people say, "Oh, this is naive," it's just pessimism. It's not actual any wisdom that they're giving. I met someone last night who made me think of that, and they were just very negative, and they paraded around as if they were so wise and mature, because they frowned upon people who they thought were naive. And I realized then it wasn't that it's an issue of naivety. It's this illusion that the more negative you are about what could or couldn't happen, the more intelligent or smart you are about the world. And that's a really big, there's a cynical, that cynical kind of person who just pokes at everything. Oh, I can't do this.
Yeah.
They think they're wise when they do that. They're not. But we'll do that to ourselves internally as well. You have to have for lack of a better word, naive belief that you're going to be okay. And naive, not in the sense that you're going into it not knowing what's going to happen and you think everything's going to be rosy, but naive in the sense that I understand bad things are going to happen, but I'm going to walk as if they are not, which contradicts what I said before. What I mean by that is you need to beam the positivity and the good energy that things are going to be okay. Even if you know down the line some things are going to not be okay. This is what I've learned very recently. I mean, in the last month, and I'm still grappling with. But I think that the antidote to fear is the willful walking forward in the belief that everything's going to be okay, that you're going to get through whatever it is that might happen.
Yeah, that's how I look at it. That's how I walk my truth with if you think about it, everything that if you know deep down inside, no matter what happens to, you can deal with it. If it doesn't, take you out, then you can survive no matter what. So if you got that in your belief, then it relieves the pressure of when things do, or the possibility of things going wrong. Because at the end of the day, you're gonna be all right. So now you can get busy doing what you need to do, which is run your business or run your life. So that's one of the keys is self-awareness. Be aware. So it's not naivety to think that, hey, no matter what life throws at me, I can cope. Or no matter what life puts me at, I'll be okay. That's knowing who you are as a person. So, because you can be at the bottom of the barrel and pick yourself up and walk back up to the top when you know that about yourself. But when you don't know yourself, then you can say, well, I'm gonna fake it till I make it. And then you start telling everybody, hey, treating everybody like they don't know what they're talking about. You know everything.
So could you, because this is something that I understand, but no, that I know, but I don't understand, that everything will be okay, because I do have an issue of overthinking, and all that hypothesizing about what will and won't happen. I realized that it's resistance. It's just like resistance for the flow of how things work. And that, I think, actually creates anxiety disorders, panic disorders. It's just like clinging to what is. You're like, you don't move. Like that's mentally what it feels like.
What it is that you don't believe it. It's just when a person say to you, whatever the mind can conceive and believe it will achieve, but it doesn't say whatever a person conceive and understand will achieve. So you know for a fact that you would be okay no matter what. Well, you know that, but you don't believe it. And that's the final hurdle. When you believe who you are and you put the work in and you study who you are and what you stand for, then you know, and you can say it out loud. No matter what life throw at me, I'll be okay. But that doesn't mean it's not gonna hurt. That doesn't mean you're not gonna feel the pain. That doesn't mean you're not gonna cry and be upset like everyone else. It doesn't mean you're not gonna be devastated. But what it means that after all that's over and all that's said and done, you're gonna dust yourself off and keep on moving. And that's the end result. So no matter what happens in between, if something goes wrong, at the end of it, I know that I'm gonna pick myself up and keep moving. So guess what? I don't have that fear of all the other stuff in the middle. Because that's just how it goes.
What about the disappointment and regret about what you might have missed out on? Let's say if you go through something bad, like let's say some turmoil happens and everything will be okay. But what about the feeling of like there was an opportunity I missed and I could have been, something could have happened great, or like what about that? Like what about the regret and the
So that's a choice. Do you want to live your life with regret? I have no regrets in my life, none. I've had some good things and some bad things, some terrible things, but I have no regret. I don't accept it. So if you want to incorporate regret and say, oh, so now you're trying to have the cake and eat it too. You want everything to work out perfectly, and when it doesn't, I'm going to regret that it didn't work out perfectly. Or I'm going to regret that I missed out on this because I was too busy doing that. You can't have the cake and eat it too. You got to go all in on what you're doing, what you've done with your business. Go all in 100%. And if it doesn't work out, you say, fine, I did my best. And what did I learn? How did I grow? What did I become? It's about the journey. It's not necessarily about the end result of being successful. It's about the journey. You made a decision to start a new ball game. You playing a new game than somebody who's working full time. That's a new game. So now you need to understand what game am I playing here and do it at the best of your ability. So the game of life. You have a different approach to the way you live, the way you operate, the way you pay your bills, the way you how you think about tomorrow than someone that has a day job. If I have a day job, I can get up and go to work tomorrow and do my job. At the end of the week, I get paid. So if you're an entrepreneur, you doing things on your own, you have other things you have to consider. So just I would say, going back to it, don't incorporate the word regret into your vocabulary. Get rid of it. If you can get rid of it, then you solve your problem of regret. Because regret is not in me. I don't allow it to get in me. Regret what? Whatever happens to you is meant to happen to you. Some things happen for you. Most things happen for you. So if something go wrong, something is happening for you to move in another direction. So, but a lot of people may not understand it. It's always something. Why is this happening to me? Sometimes things are happening for you. It's time for you to move in another direction. So I accept that. When something go wrong, it's like, okay, what did I learn? What can I do next? Where am I going? Am I going to sit down and stop, or I'm going to keep moving? So it's no regret. And you can tell yourself, I have no regret. Even if you don't believe it in the beginning, you tell yourself, I have no regret until you start living your life that way. And then you look back and say, this is how I live my life, folks. I've done what I've done. I failed. I succeeded. But guess what? I have no regrets. But when you try to cover that, oh, it messed up, and I regret that happened. I regret that it didn't work out that way. Don't look at the regret. Look at the accomplishments.
Because I feel for a lot of people, regret, or the fear of regret, is a big hurdle to them doing what they want to do. There's many stories out there that pass around through word of mouth. And act as like a what's that term? Like an old wives' tale about, like, this and that. So, for example, there's that band member. I forgot his name. I should know his name, but he was a member of a band, and his band members always had practice and so on. They were very famous, or they were quite famous, but he always wanted to party and drink and so on, right? And his band members went, I'm sorry, we can't do this anymore. We're replacing you with someone else.
Right.
And that band ended up being Metallica.
Right.
So what would you say to that guy?
I would say that you probably wish you would have done better, but you probably don't go to the regret. You wish you would have stepped up and done the right thing, and you would have been a part of Metallica. But it's no good having regret, because it's done. So move forward with what you can learn from that, and do better going forward from that point on. You learn from it. So hopefully he can become a better person and learn from what he should have and could have and would have done, and say, well, I wish I would have done that, but I don't have any regrets, because regrets ain't gonna help you. What can regrets do for you? It can't do nothing. When you get to the point of regret, it's already passed. So it's like, okay, I'm regretting something that's already happened.
Yeah.
And it's done. And you can't go back and change that. So I don't waste my energy on that. And I would say to you, don't waste your time with that. Because
I think the viewer. But there's another side of that story where he actually did end up cleaning his act, and he became famous himself.
So there you go. So you have that wish. At some point he said, hey, this is what I made an error in. I could have been with these guys. However, reason why I wasn't, I'm gonna fix that. And that's what you do. Don't have it, because a lot of people that have regret will stop right there. They've given them the cop out. Oh, I regret I didn't. But now what? It's good what good is having regret if you're not going to take action and do something differently? So I don't live my life and don't live your life with regret incorporated into it, because it can't help you. It's just like the same thing with worry. What is worry going to do for you?
Yeah.
Spend your life worrying about things that never happen, or when it does happen, it's never as bad as you imagine it to be. Never. So you worry yourself day in, day out, and then when it happened, it wasn't as bad as you thought it was going to be. So what was all that worry for?
So the reason I bring this up is hold on. The reason I bring this up is because when you do something like leave your job and so on, you enter the world that's kind of like gambling. Like you kind of have to gamble. Like, I'm gonna bet on this. Is this gonna work out? It didn't work out. And there's a lot of decisions that you have to make about it could go one way or the other. There's some decisions that you should do, but then you don't for some complex reason or some reason, and then they end up being the right decision. And you have all of these and this is where you get into the seeing in the future, like predicting what's going to happen, in living in the world of the future, because you don't want to lose. And that it's the gambler's curse of trying to predict what's going to happen. And I feel like that regret is a big part of that. Not only regret from the past, but regretting something that hasn't even come to pass yet. Like being at a crossroads, and then regretting losing or by picking the wrong path. So that can come up. That might be something unique to me. I have a uniquely complicated way of seeing things, but it's something.
That's one of the key to also combat regret. Clarity. You complicate it, you can complicate your life to the nth degree. You can complicate the way you operate, the way you think, and it can be a mess. So you have to keep your way of thinking kind of simple, but also not be a simple thinker. So meaning you weed out the things that work for you and the things that doesn't work. Two things that we know just in these two words we mentioned, worry and regret. Those two words don't work for no one. It just doesn't work. But people continue to use it to try to make it work. It just won't work. So you can't worry yourself into success. You can't worry yourself out of it. I mean, you can worry yourself to the point that you don't get it, but you can't worry yourself to the point that you're going to feel comfortable and say, yeah, I knew it. I was worrying and worrying and worrying. What happened is when you start thinking about the things that can go wrong, you are getting busy making them go wrong. Because that's what your mind is tuned into. So if you want to be successful, and then you start out as an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, then fear start creeping in. And you lay in bed thinking about all the things that can go wrong. And you don't spend hours of doing that. That's where your attention is at. So you're not creative. You're not following your intuition and your instinct. You're trying to cover your backside because you're worried about the things that's going to go wrong. And that's where your mind is tuned in. So you spend a bulk of your time creating the very thing that you're trying to prevent. And that's the madness about it. So we all do it. You create the things that you're trying to prevent because that's where your mind is tuned in. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it's going to achieve. So that could be a negative thing. You conceive the idea and you believe it's gonna go wrong every time. So guess where you start tilting toward? Instead of having a balance and looking straight down the middle and say, well, I'm going to run straight down the middle and run through that ring of fire and see what I come out and how I come up. So yeah, it's a tricky thing. The mind is a tricky thing, and you have to be on top of that when you want to walk this earth as an entrepreneur or a soul trader or whatever. You have to be in tune to these little traps. Your mind will trap you to believe that you got it worked out, that you're going to cover your backside. You're going to cover all the basics so you don't have any regrets. So all you're thinking about is the possibility of having regrets instead of creating the magic of running your business and coming up with ideas that's going to take off. You spend a lot of your time worrying about what could and what possibly would happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in particular me, like I tend to get wrapped up in that world, and it feels as if you're playing it safe, and then you realize you just end up playing the same game that you were playing, before when I was at my day job.
Mm.
One question I have is, so we understand this idea that everything's we, um, okay. We understand this idea that everything's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any instances that you can think of in which it seemed like everything was not going to be okay, and then it was, or something like that? Because it's still a thing that I feel in that this feeling that if I don't do this right, then this isn't going to work. Yeah.
I'm trying to follow that question. Run that by me again.
Are there any instances in which it felt like everything was not going to be okay, and then it ended up being completely okay? Or maybe even a past regret, something that you thought, oh my God, I'm going to regret this, I'm going to regret this, and then you did
No, see, I can't answer that because I don't. I haven't read. Maybe it's been some things I should have had regret on, because I failed on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
I failed in a lot of things that I've tried, but I have no regrets over none of them. And I never really thought, well, something's bad's going to happen, and then it happened. No, I can't really say.
What about some?
I'm sure it has been, because I worry and think, just like you try not to worry, but you have some worries. I'm not a robot. But yeah,
What about some turmoil that you thought this isn't going to be okay, and then it ended up being okay? In the
don't know.
military, or okay.
No, nothing that can come to me. But I do have some challenges where, I remember we your mom was pregnant, and I ended up losing my job and we just got a new house all in 1 week. So that was a bit of pressure where it's like, okay, what are you gonna do? So, but that was a concerning moment. But it's just one of those things where I'm pretty just straight down and just get on with it. Let's go do what we got to do. Lost a job, okay, got to go get a new job. Bills are coming. Baby's on the way. And what are we gonna do? I just didn't have that kind of pressure on my back, and that's a mindset, I think. Or you just have that. Some people, I might have been naive, as they say, but it's just one of those things where pressure is a word again, and you could put all kinds of pressure on yourself if you choose to, and you probably do it. And I know I probably do that too with my own work. I put more pressure to keep my standards at a certain way than anybody else can ever put on me. I won't allow that. I won't allow somebody else to put, but I put it on myself. So it's a fine line. Another thing what entrepreneurs may do is you get busy putting pressure on yourself, especially when you're young and you're trying to figure pressure on yourself. And so as you get older, you start, you get wiser. People start figuring out, why do I do that? Why do I put so much pressure on myself? Why do I allow life to put pressure on me? what am I trying to prove here? You know, what am I trying to prove? What am I, who do I think I am? You are only a human being who's trying to make it, trying to do your best in life. That's all you can do. Do your best and try to make it in life. Anything else that falls short of that, it is what it is. And it doesn't make you any less or more of the individual or person. So that's the way I look at it. And some people just don't look at it that way. If they fail in their job, then their life is over. And that's why another thing, I preach the idea that your job is not who you are. It's not your identity. You know, so no matter what level of job or accomplishments I've achieved, it's just something that I've achieved, or what I've failed at. It's something that I failed at, but that's not who I am. That's not who I am to you. That's not who I am to my brothers and sisters, my nieces and nephews. My job is not who I am. So I can never fall into that trap. If I fail at my career, then I'm a nobody. I'm a loser. Or life is just it's not worth living. But that's just getting caught up into something that's not real. You weren't born an entrepreneur. So what it means is if you don't be great at it, that doesn't mean you less than a person. That'll make you less as a Malik Hillman. So you have to understand who you are, what you're doing, what this life is all about, and really get your philosophy down pat and what you believe and how you operate. So yeah, but you're doing a great job at like when you came to me with the idea of quitting your job, I was all for it. Go for it. Because I believe that you should live your life the way you want to live it. And understand that that decision come with consequences. If you're willing to deal with it and live with it, it's your life. So go for it. So that's why you got no kickback from me saying, oh, no, you can't do that. You shouldn't do that. Go for it. And I think that's important as a parent to allow your kids to become what they want to become. And if it's tough, life is tough for you, it's your life. Who's got to deal with it? You do. Who's got to pay the bills? You do. Who's got to live with the idea, oh, look at my friends and look at me? You do. Who's got to deal with all the pressures of life? Your life. You do. I got to deal with my own. So, of course, you don't want to see your kids suffering. And I still have to bite my tongue sometimes with the idea that you're doing your entrepreneur. It's these ideas of stable job. What about a stable job? What about this and what about that? I can't put that onto you because that's a fear factor. My philosophy of the old school is different now. Things are not the way it used to be. People have different jobs. They have different careers. They have multiple careers. So you have multiple careers, but I look at it now, it's your life. And I said, go for it. So that's the key. It's been a good conversation. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, it was a really good conversation. I always learn from speaking about my past experiences and then, talking to you and learning more. But no, yeah, thank you for the discussion.
Well, thank you for sharing your life and your journey, and all the best for the future going forward. And I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you're listening to Old Head Mindset Podcast with Malik and Ricky Tillman. Thank you for watching.